Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our Week in Review episode here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. It's trade deadline week in review, so an especially goofball one, but a lot of ads that might vanish by next week because there just simply is stuff that as much research as we do and as many minutes of basketball as we watch, we just can't really know until all the pieces are where they are supposed to be. I am Dan Besbris. You can follow me on Twitter at Dan Besbris, DanBesbris. You can follow me on Blue Sky Network at Old Man Squad. Please take a moment, as they say, to like, rate, and subscribe. You can like and subscribe, or like on YouTube, subscribe everywhere, rate on Apple and Spotify. We sort of plateaued a bit on the Spotify rating, so if you're checking us out over there, please take a moment to hit that 5 star. It's very fast. The subscriptions obviously are a really big deal, and those really help us grow as we continue to kind of work this thing and try to make Old Man Squad as big as humanly possible. Before we get into the injury replacements, that's always the first bucket we go through on these shows. A reminder that tomorrow is Super Bowl Sunday. It's the biggest betting weekend of the year, which means more updated odds and more than 100 props on the Super Bowl at BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. You can get down on MVP odds. You can dabble with props. You can play with the exclusive in-game live betting over at BetOnline, making your game day experience the ultimate and count just a little bit more. Whether you're a first-timer or an experienced fan and bettor, BetOnline offers you everything and more. BetOnline, the game starts here. Why do we do injury replacements first? Well, because people always wonder why these names don't appear on other parts of the show. It's a shorter list right now because, honestly, there just aren't that many guys that are extraordinarily hurt. Although, actually, yeah, we're going to do that thing again where you guys watch me add a name in real time. And that name that you're going to watch me add in real time will apparently pop up in a minute when my computer allows it. There we go. Ta-da! Okay, it's back in there. The number of carats to the left of the name for those that are watching on the YouTubes, that is how excited I am about the player. And sort of a confidence factor where like a lot of carats means this guy is going to roll at, a top 30, top 40 clip, and no carats is, I don't know, maybe they'll hit top 100 like 1 out of every 2 ball games. 4 carats, the most I've ever given out to anyone, is Amen Thompson right now, who, look, let's be honest, he may have played his way into just a full-time role. But for, I guess it's completion's sake, he wasn't a fantasy startable asset before the Rockets started getting hurt. Then he obviously jumped from, top 130 to top 30. That doesn't happen very often. And so just until he shows that he is going to be one when everybody's healthy, we're just going to leave him on here. It's just like semantics. Obviously, you're starting him, and you're not doing anything with him. Daniel Gafford, 3 carats right now. When Anthony Davis makes his return, which is supposed to be later today for the Mavericks, we'll see what that actually equates to. I know they're saying they want to go big, which is a Gafford, AD, PJ Washington front court. I have to believe that some of those guys will lose out somewhere along the line. So Gafford, he's a 3 carat right now, but I think that probably comes down a little bit. Bobby Portis is a 2 carat while Giannis is out. That's an easy one. That's been a sort of a 1-to-1 correlation, tale as old as time. Malik Beasley, this is still the Jaden Ivey stuff, although you could probably bump him up to 2 carats with Cade Cunningham missing a ball game. Mike Conley is a 1 carat play these days with no Dante DiVincenzo and no Julius Randle. Richaun Holmes, so easy to root for. We'd love to see him succeed. And right now with Alex Sarr out and Jonas Valanciunas traded, Richaun Holmes is a 1 carat center play for the Washington Wizards. Grayson Allen is a 1 carat play. He looked good, like better than good, actually, in the Suns' come-from-behind overtime win over the hapless Utah Jazz. I know Suns are in a bad way these days if they're scratching and clawing to get by Utah in overtime. But Grayson Allen looked great because Kevin Durant was out and Bradley Beal was also out, and that's why Tyus Jones is a 1 carat play. So you roll those guys while the stars are out. Once the main dudes are back for Phoenix, you're probably just playing the 3 main dudes, and that includes Nick Richards, who's more of a spot play guy these days against, like the bad teams, pretty much. Because if you look over the last 3 weeks, Nick Richards is number 177. Not good, ladies and gentlemen, not good. And that's the aggregate of what he's done basically in Phoenix. 1 carat right now for Rui Hachimura. That's going to evaporate as soon as Mark Williams and Luka Doncic make their debuts for the Lakers. And a 0 carat play for Grady Dick. RJ Barrett's dealing with a concussion, but Emmanuel quickly is back. So there are minutes, and Bruce Brown got traded, and Brandon Ingram is apparently not that close to playing again for Toronto. So yeah, there's minutes available for Grady, but just not as many touches as we'd want. All right, let's get to the ads board, and it's basically 2 pages. The first page of the ads board is all new names. We have 8 new names on the ads board thanks to trade deadline week. The first one is Moussa Diabate, who had a terrific game against Wemby yesterday. But at the same time, we have to kind of remember, number one, Jusuf Nurkic is going to play. And I think when Nurk shows up and plays, these 2 guys are probably going to pretty much split the center minutes, somewhere in the low to mid 20s for each of them. And it's also possible that it's more important for the Hornets to rehabilitate Nurk's value and not just throw Diabate in for massive minutes every ball game. We'll kind of see the way they play it. We can't know for sure until we actually see it happen. It sounds like they want to try Moussa as the starter. He is, to say offensively challenged is probably being too kind. He's very bad on offense, literally 0 offensive game to speak of. He's not a good foul shooter. He is an outstanding rebounder. That's what you're going to get out of Diabate. So deserves an ad to see how this thing shakes out, but might end up being a punt points play when all is said and done. I don't know that he gets inside the top 100 if you are actually trying in that category, because when he plays full minutes, he's still only getting you about 7-ish points per game, and it was less than that, remember, earlier this year. Next name on the ads board is Dalton Knecht. So again, out of the same team. And I talked about this one on a couple shows, I think yesterday and the day before. The Knecht one is one that I was kind of back and forth on a little bit, because as 9 category players go, he's not that great. We saw him explode briefly in Los Angeles. And when he gets hot, he's super fun to watch, because these guys that can just shoot from 1,000 miles away and hit them over and over and over again, that's cool. That's 3-point contest stuff. We all get to explode every time the next one goes in. Problem is, he plays 0 defense. None whatsoever. So you're not getting any steals or blocks. Is he going to get to the foul line? Maybe a little bit. Probably more, I would think, in Charlotte with just sort of more opportunity. But what it came down to for me was a report that the Hornets wanted Dalton, that they were excited about him. So that makes me think he's going to play. And it makes me think he's going to get to do a bunch of stuff, because he's older. He's not, a 19-year-old rookie. He's whatever he is, 20, 22 or something like that. 20, I forget. So he's already kind of NBA ready. So they want to just get him in there and see what he's capable of. To that end, I think we should probably take a shot on him as well. What's he going to do? I don't know. But if he gets 13, 14 shots a ball game, which feels like a little bit of a reach, but not insane, you can start putting up some big 3-pointers numbers. And I think he will grab a handful of rebounds. He's big enough that he can get a few boards, even though it overshadows the fact that, like, some of the stuff he just doesn't do at all. Kyshawn George is an ad for me because his 9-cat game is actually very good. That's the sort of upshot with Kyshawn, is I don't know that he's going to have guaranteed minutes. I don't know whether Chris Middleton is going to take his playing time, or like it's hard to know exactly what's going to happen here. But I think the Wizards are kind of excited about Kyshawn George. And more so than some of these other guys that were like, oh yeah, they've been in the NBA for 3 years already and they haven't really done anything. George is a rookie. He was the 24th pick in this last draft. The Wizards have every reason to kind of just see what the hell Kyshawn is. And in his last 2 ball games, he's played 30 minutes and 35 minutes. He scored 17 in each of them, averaging 17 and 6 with 4.5 3-pointers, 2.5 assists, 2 steals, and a half a block. He's very, very fantasy friendly, especially for a rookie. Now, obviously, the 50-some-odd% shooting is not going to hold. He's at 36% for the year. That's a number that's going to fall off a cliff. Does that mean the minutes dry up when the shots start falling? It's a possibility. Do the minutes dry up on days when Chris Middleton plays? Also a possibility. But I don't want to be caught with my pants down if the Wizards are like, no, you know what? We're going to give Kyshawn as much as he can handle right now, because it could happen. Matas Buzelis is the next name on the list. I'm not quite as over the moon on Buzelis as others. You guys have probably heard that in my voice, mostly just because the Bulls didn't sell off everybody. But what I have liked lately is that he has 8 blocks in his last 4 ball games. That was always the kind of potential upside with Buzelis that we hadn't seen until these last 4 ball games. So I'm becoming a little bit of a convert here. Obviously, with the caveat that he shot 10 for 10 in one of those ball games. He's not a big rebounder. Even in large minutes, he's still sitting kind of around 4 rebounds a game. So it's going to have to be threes and blocks, meaning when you're relying so heavily on 2 categories to kind of carry you in fantasy, you've got to be really, really good in those. He could be. And if the Bulls start shutting anybody down, that opens things up. But, you know, all the quotes out of the Bulls front office, as absolutely idiotic as they might be, are basically saying, yeah, we got rid of Zach LaVine, but we're still going to, like, make a play at being okay. I mean, what are we doing, Chicago? And that makes me a little worried. And that's why I'm not quite as high in Buzelis as others, because I think, you know, he's probably going to cap out around 26, 27 minutes. And I'm not sure that that's enough when they still have Vooch in front of him in the pecking order, and Kobe White in front of him in the pecking order, and Ayo in front of him in the pecking order, and just like go down the list. It doesn't leave that much left. Jusuf Nurkic is an ad for me in games cap formats. I don't know that I'm all the way there in straight, like, play everybody head-to-head mode yet, if only because I don't know if he's going to play every day in Charlotte. My guess would be he doesn't, because the Hornets are only, like, their only real goal with Nurk right now is to rehab his value. You don't have to play him every day big minutes to do that. You play him intermittently for decent minutes to show the league, oh, yeah, this guy can handle, like, not playing every day, and he's not being a pain in the neck. And look what he does when he's in there. He's being effective, and he can sort of charge the battery between ball games. It's going to be a zero fatigue, go nuts for 24, 25 minutes every once in a while, Nurk. That's my best guess. We'll see what the Hornets actually do with it. But from a logic standpoint, that's kind of the direction that it seems like they ought to go with him. So head-to-head is meh. Roto, I think you pick him up, because in those games where he plays 25 minutes and gets to just sort of run free, he's going to do a lot of stuff because that team is bad. He doesn't have to bow to Kevin Durant and Beal and Booker, and frankly, guys that he should have been kind of bowing to, who in Charlotte you look at and you're like, yeah, that guy should definitely be taking the shot over Nurk trying to get close to the rim. LaMelo, maybe, who's extremely inefficient, but obviously a cool player. Miles Bridges, maybe. It's something that I talked about and thought would be sort of a Jonas Valanciunas positive this year. And then JV just didn't really get to play, so that didn't really matter. And he got drafted too high, and we dodged him everywhere, and thank goodness for that. Brandin Podziemski is the 6th name on the new ads board, and he's another one where the sky could kind of fall in here when Jimmy Butler shows up. I don't know if Podziemski is going to lose all of his playing time. I don't know if Buddy Hield might overtake him. I think the Warriors still think that he's kind of like the all-around dude that they should be trying to get into the mix. But he has big issues. He doesn't shoot all that well, and his free throws are not very good. But if the pieces fall into place, he could be a points, boards, assists, steals, threes guy where you sort of overcome the bad percentages, and that's how he gets to value. Odds of Podziemski being inside the top 100, I think at best are about 30% right now, so he's not my top priority ad, but we're going to put him on the board, and we're going to see how it goes. Max Christie is on my ads board. And he's another one where, again, we can see the sky fall in. And like most of these guys are in that category. And I was going to go back through there and try to figure out which of the ones are not, but whatever. You've heard me talk about each of them. Yes, Max Christie's spot could get blown up when AD is in there and PJ Washington comes back. And like that's a lot of minutes to account for. But it's also possible that they traded for AD and Max Christie because they like both of those guys. And I personally believe that Max is a better fit than most of the other fringe players on the Mavs. So I'm picking him up in the hopes that he can get, 8-9 shots off the bench and sort of be the guy who soaks up 28, 29 minutes between point guard, shooting guard, and small forward behind Kyrie and Clay and PJ. And Caleb Martin apparently is weeks away from getting in there. That's something that could kind of squeeze him out a little bit because there's a similarity to what they'd be asked to do. Caleb doing it at a slightly larger position on the floor. But like I think Max Christie can overtake Dinwiddie and Hardy and these types of guys. He's better than them. Again, odds of this sticking 20, 30%, but I'm going to put him on my roster and see how it fits where I have space. Again, like you're not going to pick up all 8 of these guys, but figure out what makes sense for your team and kind of work your way down the board. Diabate, Knecht, those guys are probably the most interesting of this bunch. And the least interesting of this bunch is Mr. High Floor, Low Ceiling. That is Derrick Jones Jr. Although as far as leaping ability, the ceiling is quite high. As fantasy value goes, it's quite low. He's going to be a decent field goal percent guy who gets you some steals and some threes. It's a weird combination, which I think makes him kind of interesting, specifically in, straight 9-cat. Punt rebounds teams, he has some value. Punt assist teams, he has a little bit of value. Frankly, even punt points teams, he has a little bit more value. But I think that there's a certain top 100 like safety blanket element to Derrick Jones, and that's why I'm okay with it. Folks, make sure to check out our buddies over at UnderdogFantasy.com. UnderdogFantasy.com. Use promo code OLDMAN, OLDMAN, or just click on the link in the show description. It's the easiest thing ever. You go there, you pick higher or lower on any 2 or more players out of their massive list of possible projections, and you could win up to 1,000 times your entry fee. Or you just pick 2 and go 3 times your entry fee. But sign up today using our promo code and get up to $1,000 in deposit match bonus cash and a free play that'll turn your first one. If you wanted to do 2 names on the board, you can turn it into 1. If you want to do 3, it turns it into 2, and so on and so forth. It's a great way to sort of break in at UnderdogFantasy.com. It's your call. UnderdogFantasy.com. Again, promo code is OldMan, or click that link in the show description. We're not going to do a board together today because I want to get you through this bad boy. But it's been a lot of fun. You guys have watched me on some of these shows, I think, do some of our Underdog Fantasy cards. And we're hanging in there, actually. After I sort of screwed up the first 2, I've basically been breaking even for like the last 3 weeks. That's fun. It's fun to play something and break even. And I think as I get better, we're going to keep advancing. Here are some guys from the ads board that got added on an extra week. This is basically just reminders. Ayo Dosunmu for the 2nd week in a row. Isaiah Collier, Santi Aldama. These guys are all on the board for a 2nd week in a row. Onyeka Okongwu, Kel'el Ware, Jaden McDaniels, and Lonzo Ball for games cap, as well as Nikola Jovic, are all on there for a 3rd week in a row. And removed from the ads board is Nick Richards. He was on there 2 weeks in a row. Now I've got him on the soft holds list. So that's just a couple of updates on guys that had been on the ads board prior. These are also all of the guys here coming up that have been on the ads board 5 weeks or more, with the week that they made their first appearance listed. Bilal Coulibaly, Christian Braun, Dyson Daniels, those guys were all week 1. Alex Sarr was week 2. Tari Eason, PJ Washington, and Shaden Sharp in a punt field goal build. Those guys were all week 3. Andrew Wiggins, after he came back from injury, so that was week 6. Chris Middleton, Mark Williams, and the injured Herb Jones. Womp womp. Those guys were all week 7. Obviously, you're trying to hold on to Herb until he gets officially ruled out for the year, but you can dump him if you need to. Malik Monk was week 9. That was when he took over for DeMar DeRozan and then stuck in the starting lineup. Russell Westbrook trying to hold there, week 11. Scoot Henderson and Andrew Nembhard were week 12. I think that's as far as we've gotten on these. Moving over to the time to hold and time to worry board. Time to hold guys are dudes that I think are pretty clear holds right now. Scoot and Middleton I put in there because people asked about them a little bit. PJ Washington, who's hurt right now, but I think he's a hold despite the acquisition of Anthony Davis. Zach Edey I have on the holds board, although at my core, I still think he's more of an injury replacement or a really good schedule play. But we're going to hold him because he's had a couple of good games going. Devin Vassell, his role is probably smaller here with De'Aaron Fox in town, but he's still out there long enough, I think, to have value. Tyus Jones is on the hold board right now, but that's only because there are two guys out for the Phoenix Suns. I think as soon as those guys come back, Tyus Jones probably moves over either to the worry board or, frankly, all the way to the cuts board. Guys on the worry board, DeAndre Hunter, who, by the way, was a week 5 ad. I don't know why I got to get him back on that thing. I screwed that up, everybody. Sorry, he should have been on the rest of seasons board, but also with the notation that he is on the worries board because Hunter was very good for a long time. Eve Missy is on the worry board, but I'm actually trying to hold on to him a little bit longer because I think the Pelicans start to shut people down at some point soon. The new names, or DeAndre Hunter was a new name on the worry board. Goga Bitadze is on the worry board. I'm giving him about 2 more games to figure out how to get his minutes up above Wendell Carter Jr.'s, and if he doesn't, I probably move on. Clint Capella is apparently staying in Atlanta, but to me, he only makes sense. He's really only a hold if you're punting free throws at this point anyway, because he's behind Onyeka Okongwu in the depth chart. So I am worried about what the rest of this season holds. And then Nick Richards, who we mentioned earlier in the show as someone you want to worry about. Probably barely holding on there, but I do think we can potentially do better elsewhere. The time to cuts board has a few new names on the list. These ones make me sad. Robert Williams III and Donovan Clingan. I mean, I get it. Like, you might want to try to hold on to Clingan, but based on what we're seeing with the Portland Trailblazers right now, which is not only are they trying to win, but they are winning. Like, the Blazers are straight up winning ball games. They've won 9 out of their last 10. And every time they win, an inch closer to a play-in berth, which, again, is not going to be an easy thing for them because there's multiple teams separating the Blazers. They're the 13 seed from the 10 seed, but they're 2.5 games out now. That's striking distance. The Spurs are a half game ahead. The Warriors are 2.5 ahead. The Kings 2.5 ahead also. The Suns, with their overtime win, moved in front of the Kings. So now they have 1 game of breathing room. But these teams are not exactly world beaters. You know, the Spurs are trying to figure out their new pieces. I think they're going to be good, but how fast does it happen? The Warriors, same thing. They're going to be integrating Jimmy Butler. The Kings still seem like they have a lot of problems that they can't quite figure out. So the Blazers are out there going, look, we can compete with this thing. And as long as they don't go on an extended losing streak, which could still happen, the Blazers are probably not shutting down their main guys. They might get hurt. These guys are all injury prone, but they're not going to shut them down, I don't think, until they're mathematically eliminated, because they're so far from full tank mode that shutting down guys, like, what the hell good does it do them at this point? Are they going to be the 8th worst record or the 9th worst? That changes almost nothing. These teams that want to lose and get the top pick, they're trying to get in the bottom 3, bottom 4 even. But like 9th worst, 10th worst, 8th worst, I don't think it really matters that much to them right now. And they got 2 pretty damn high picks in Clingan and Scoot Henderson. So yeah, you could push the tank longer, and a smart organization probably would. But I think the Blazers just feel like they sort of need an emotional win, and that's what they're doing right now. So I'm not willing to hold on to Robert Williams or Donovan Clingan for the next 6 weeks and wait for a shutdown. That's too far when these guys are doing nothing. Jonas Valanciunas, I'd pretty much been calling him a drop on this show for a number of weeks because there was just no way he was going to get traded to a place where he was going to do more. But the week before the deadline, Alex Sarr got hurt, and JV finally had like a truly good fantasy week. So he was an ad for that week, and now he's a drop because he's Domantas Sabonis' backup, and there aren't that many opportunities to play when you're Domantas Sabonis' backup. Cole Anthony, I think, is trending down enough where we can kind of get out in front of this one and call him a cut. There's just sort of not going to be enough there once the Magic get healthy. and they are on their way there. Still, by the way, missing Jalen Suggs. Jeremy Sohan, I think, is a cut. I know he had a double-double on Friday night. I just don't think there's enough playing time for him anymore with all the guys the Spurs have all of a sudden. Malcolm Brogdon has been on this list for a while, as has Cason Wallace, as has Trace Jackson-Davis. I've left them on the time to cut board basically as a reminder to me that they twice appeared on the ads board. And that way, if they ever get back on there, I'll remember, hey, they have already been on here twice, and we can continue to add asterisks as we see fit, or maybe just to remind myself not to fall for that crap again. And this is my favorite ending part of the show. It's the watch list, and it's 2 pages long right now, which, again, a lot of that is because of the trade deadline, because there's just stuff that we would like to say that we know about, but don't. There's stuff that's up in the air right now. By the way, we just got word that LeBron James is out for the Lakers game on Saturday against the Pacers. So if you're looking for injury replacements, Rui's going to do a bunch of stuff. So get Rui Hachimura fired up for one day. He's going to have himself a fun one. All right, so the watch list is long. Let's just start going through them, and we'll sort of talk through how we got to this point. Karlo Matkovic in New Orleans. He played more in their last ball game. But again, I don't think we know what's about to happen. 27 minutes in one, 30 minutes in the other. He has a little bit of that sort of unicorny fantasy appeal. Probably not as good field goal number, but he can shoot free throws. He can space the floor a little bit. He can get some blocks. He's not a bad rebounder. He's a guy that I think has silly season appeal, but I don't think we're there yet, even though we should be. New Orleans should be shutting people down. They're terrible, and like there's so many bodies that are at risk of being more hurt. But they just brought in Kelly Olynyk. We don't know if he's going to play. They just brought in Bruce Brown. It sounds like they actually do kind of like him, and that's just going to make life more complicated here in the short term. Same story for the next 2 guys on the list, in Jose Alvarado and Jordan Hawkins. The guys they've brought in just squeeze those dudes a little bit. As guys get shut down, I think Alvarado and Matkovic are guys that could sort of maybe get up and over the hump. Hawkins more of a points league type. For now, watch list. Stephon Castle, he's a popular ad, and who can blame you because he scored 33 points in his last ball game. He's turned himself into this sort of like bench gunner type for the Spurs. But the interesting thing about Castle is, despite all of that, the fantasy value hasn't been all that good. And that, again, sort of illuminates the issues with 9-Cat. He's just barely inside the top 100 over the last 2 weeks, despite scoring 19 points with 5 boards and 4 assists and a steal. But the field goal percent is low on pretty high volume. The free throw number is not good enough on kind of medium volume. 2.5 turnovers a game. It's hard for him. Now, in a punt play, he makes sense. If you're punting field goal, if you're punting turnovers, there's ways that you can kind of get him there. I happen to prefer Castle as a points league ad right now. For straight 9-Cat, I don't think he's quite there yet. For punts, he's pretty close, or possibly all there. But again, like even over the last week, because of holes in his fantasy game, right now it's turnovers over the last week. That's not allowing him to get inside the top 100. 8-Cat, yes. Punt plays, yes. Points leagues, yes. Straight 9-Cat, not quite. But he's a fun young player, though. I'll give him that. And again, like maybe I should have put him on the ads board and just put those little asterisks there of like, got to fit your build. But, you know. Terry Rozier is on the watch list ever since he went under federal investigation. He started playing better, but I have to believe that all these guys coming in for Miami are going to make that kind of impossible. Keon Johnson, Zaire Williams, Day'Ron Sharpe are the 3 Nets on our watch list. Zaire Williams has shown kind of a well-roundedness to his fantasy game, minus the field goal percent has been really bad lately. So he's kind of a maybe, and Keon Johnson is kind of a maybe. I'm having trouble figuring out the Nets. They're generally teams where you just like, I can't quite handicap this club. Keon's been top 50 over the last week. So I feel like the answer there is yes, he should probably be rostered, but I also have no idea what he's going to do in his next ball game. Day'Ron Sharpe is going to need Nick Claxton to get out of the way. So Keon, I think, is a yes. Zaire is a maybe. Day'Ron is a keep an eye on it. Gary Trent Jr. and Kyle Kuzma in Milwaukee, we're keeping an eye on those dudes. I don't really know what the hell is about to happen for these guys. I think Kuzma's going to play enough to have points league value, but I don't think he's going to play enough to have 9 cap value. I don't think Gary Trent's going to get there either, but let's just make sure that Milwaukee doesn't kind of rearrange the pieces because of trading away Middleton. Again, I don't think so, but we don't really know. Vit Krejci, Hawks brought in like 6 wings. I think they waived Bones Highland, but the other guys are all sticking around. So again, Krejci had a dice double-double in their last game, but there were 3, I think, maybe even 4 guys that were headed to Atlanta that were not active yet, plus Capella if they ever wanted to go bigger. I don't think there's probably enough there for Krejci to make an impact long-term, but we'll keep an eye on it. Same with Karis LeVert, his new teammate. Let's watch it. Let's see what happens. His game, again, doesn't translate to 9-cat all that well, but points leagues, there's a possibility there. GG Jackson in Memphis, same kind of thing. Possibility. They thinned out their team by trading a couple guys away. Marcus Smart and Jake LaRavia being the 2 names. Is there going to be enough for GG? I don't think so every day, but maybe. Grayson Allen is on the watch list, has been for me for about a month and a half. Obviously, he's a play right now with Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal out. Could he stick afterwards? Maybe. They brought in Cody Martin and Vasa Micic, so that makes life tougher. Nick Smith Jr. is on the watch list, and again, maybe I'm just being too careful with this one. Maybe he should be all the way to an ad, but I don't know. Tumani Kamara, watch list. This is more, again, for silly season, I think. Bogdan Bogdanovic, I think his role with the Clippers is not going to be big enough to be an ad, but if anybody goes down for the Clippers, then you start to take a longer look. Ausar Thompson, he's one more injury away from being a play, and you saw it with Cade being out in their last ball game. Ausar was good in that one. He's good when Tobias misses a game. Just not quite there when everybody is in. And finally, Buddy Hield is the last name on the watch list in case he jumps over Brandin Podziemski, because I'm wondering now with Jimmy Butler coming in, is there going to be a spacing issue for the Warriors that only gets solved by having a 3-point chucker out there? I don't think so. I think Podziemski is going to get the first crack at it because Hield is bad at a lot of stuff at basketball. But if the Warriors decide that they need to space it out and fly, I don't think they will, though. Like, Jimmy Butler brings defense. Draymond brings defense. I think they're going to want to go defense first here in the wake of the Jimmy Butler trade and extension. So my guess is that Podziemski gets the first crack at it. But again, we won't know until we get there. And Buddy Hield is sort of the next man up. And that's your weekend review show. My goodness, there was a lot there. We tried to move super duper fast. I can't believe we got this done in under 35 minutes. That is a freaking podcasting miracle. If you made it to this point in the show, you must hit that subscribe button because we really, really need you, frankly. Please do it. Please hit the like button on your way out as well. That helps the show sort of drop into more feeds. The more of you that see it, the more that watch it, the farther it gets blasted, the more new people we can reach, especially over on YouTube this time of year, where traditional pods, I think most of you that have kind of found it have found it. I don't know how many people are looking for an NBA podcast in the middle of February, but hopefully, if you did, you found ours. And if you like it, throw a 5-star review on that bad boy as well. I'm Dan Vespers for Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. The kids are doing things in the other room, so it's a better time for me to wrap things up. We're being serenaded. My outro music is my kid doing piano practice in the other room. I know. It's the life, man. You guys should just be surprised he didn't come running onto the show. Although he did go to the bathroom right next door and said, Dan, do your show. Dad. He said, Dad. He didn't say Dan. He said, Dad, do your show. I want to listen to it while I'm in the bathroom. Got a weird family. They come from me. You shouldn't be surprised. At Dan Vespris. Zip, there it is. On Twitter, DanBesbris, Old Man Squad on Blue Sky. Thanks to BetOnline. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy. Thank you to you. And we'll be back with a week preview show into All-Star Week. So 2-week preview show, I guess. And that'll come on Sunday at some point. For now, adios.